Welcome to the U-Turn podcast. My friend, this is Ashley Stahl. I'm your host, and you are in the right place if you're ready to create a business, a career, a personal brand, or just a life that you're so proud of. And every single week, we want to support you by bringing you PhDs, subject matter experts, psychology practitioners, business leaders, all here on the show to elevate your success in business and also in life so that you can leave a legacy, you can amplify your authority, and you can really skyrocket the amount of opportunities you're creating for yourself in your career, whether you're corporate or you're a business owner. And if you are new here, again, my name is Ashley Stahl. I'm an international bestselling author of the book U-Turn, Get Unstuck, Discover Your Direction, Design Your Dream Career. And most importantly, I'm the CEO and founder of Wise Whisper Agency. I'm a top 100 TEDx speaker on the internet, and I was so inspired to create Wise Whisper and help clients craft their signature talk. We've helped hundreds of clients craft their talk, and we've also helped so many of them land spots on some of the biggest stages in the world, including the TED and TEDx stage. And so I am here on a mission to help every changemaker I know impact millions. Also, before we get into this episode, shout out to our friend Andy B. Mackin, the artist that has gifted us this sick new music for the podcast. Let's get into this week's episode. Okay, U-Turn friends, if you have not been listening to the U-Turn podcast, then you don't remember Erin Claire Jones being on here because this is definitely not our first rodeo together, and for good reason. She has a new book coming out May 13th, 2025 called How Do You Choose? A Human Design Guide to What's Best for You at Work, in Love, and in Life. Obviously, we all need that. If you don't know about human design, it's like a whole body of work. I mean, some people get it confused with astrology or Enneagram or Myers-Briggs, but it's its own planet. I know that there's some astrology calculated possibly into it, a bunch of touch points, but it's really a beast. And there's so many corporations that are actually really assessing their talent through it. And it's a whole way of life to understand it. And so we're going to dive into her book and your own human design and how to crack the code on it. So, Erin, thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, congrats on your book coming out. I know we were just talking before I hit record about what a freaking grind that is. So I'm proud of you.
Thank you so much. Way
Yeah.
more of a grind than I imagined.
Yeah, people don't talk about what it really takes to sell books, and the publishing industry is a very interesting place. So I know what you're up to. So I'm going to dive right in. First of all, I
Let's
know
do it.
my chart. So like before we even look at that, let's talk about the different types, which I know are all about how you use your energy best.
Mhm.
People sometimes will learn what type of human design they are, and they'll be like, "Ugh, I'm a generator. Everybody's a generator. Like, there's nothing special about me." So, can you just talk about the different types, and just give us a little quick intro so that people can start to potentially self-identify, despite the fact that they need to go put it in a calculator?
Of course. So you can look up your type at humandesignblueprint.com. You do need your time, date, and place of birth because human design is based on that. And it basically gives us a hyper personalized roadmap to how we can find flow in every part of our lives. But like you said, you can also just listen and see where you fall and then look it up later, or honestly, never look it up. I think what matters to me most is not whether human design is true, but whether it's useful, so listen and see if it's useful. So there are 5 types high level in human design: manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors. I think, like you said, some types they're higher in percentage than the rest. If you're a generator or manifesting generator, this doesn't make you not unique. It's just the first layer. There's so much more nuance underneath your type, but it's a really, really good starting point. So let's talk about manifesting generators first because that's you. So, manifesting generators are very natural doers. They have such capacity to kind of build and create and make things happen when they feel genuine excitement and satisfaction about what they're working on. They're also very multi-passionate. These are my clients that tend to have very non-linear career paths. They start somewhere, they end up somewhere else, and they also start another thing on the side. And they need that variety and freshness to like keep things alive for them. And sometimes they're made to feel flaky or like they're doing too much or like they haven't followed through on everything, but they're not meant to. They're really kind of meant to follow their evolving interests and just allow themselves to pivot when the time calls for it. These are people that are kind of meant to wake up in the morning energized, kind of use your energy throughout the day in ways that feel deeply satisfied and drop into bed delightfully spent, where you're like, I have left it all in the field and now I can sleep at night. You also might find as a manifesting generator that you can make things happen faster than most people. Like what takes you a couple hours takes others a whole day. And I think manifesting generators can struggle when they expect others to move at their pace and are kind of disappointed in others' capacity. So one reminder I would have for you is as fast as you are does not mean that others share that gift.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like impatience has been built into my bones. Like even when I go back to New York and it's like I haven't been living there in a while, I'm like, why is everybody walking so slow? Get out of the way. Like I
In New York.
in New York, like of all places. Okay, that's really helpful. And I imagine some people who haven't put their information into a calculator are going to start to self-identify and be validated by it. But okay, so that's fun. And why the word manifesting? I think people get stuck like there's a manifester and then there's a manifesting generator and then there's a generator. I'm the manifesting generator. What does that
That's
mean
right.
about manifesting and what does that mean about generator inside of me and those two archetypes separately?
So, some people talk about manifesting generators being a hybrid of those two types. And the idea is, and we haven't dug into this yet, but you're somebody who's really meant to kind of let things come to you, which is a very generator quality, very kind of magnetic, very receptive. But once you kind of get the clear gut signal that something is the right use of your energy, you can be the fastest and so powerful in making that thing happen, which is very manifestor-like. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how it comes together for you. I would say in terms of the language of manifesting, everybody can manifest in their own way. This is just kind of like human design terminology, what the names are, but it doesn't mean that like some types are better manifestors than others.
Yeah, okay, that makes total sense. And then as far as generators go, I know like isn't it 70% of the population is a generator? Like what does that mean and what is the nuance for them?
Totally. So 70% are generators and manifesting generators. So each are kind of 30 to 35%. And some people group these types together because they both, what they share is that they are so energetic and so capable, and their energy is boundless when they're lit up by what they're doing. But manifesting generators, like I said, are very multi-passionate, very fast. Generators often enjoy kind of the step-by-step process of making something happen. They're really here for mastery. One of the stories I tell in my book is around LeBron James, who to me is like such a perfect example of a generator. Like so much passion, so much dedication, so much mastery, but also has really kind of enjoyed doing one thing for a long time. Sometimes I see generators love doing a lot of things, but it's often like I'm going to dive deep into this one thing, and then tomorrow I'll dive deep into this one thing. So they both are such capable people. I would say one thing I always remind generators of is just around boundaries, because they are so capable. People can want them to do all kinds of things. So
Mm.
really being very clear on what their gut feels available for and what it doesn't, and not kind of saying yes out of obligation or a desire to please.
That's so good. Okay, so I know we went through me, which is manifesting generator, generator, manifester. Let's go a little bit more into manifester and then reflectors and projectors.
Okay, fabulous. So manifestors, we're getting down to types that are a little bit more rare. Manifestors are just 8 to 9% of the population. These are very disruptive, provocative people, people that are really good at getting things started, at breathing life into new ideas. Their gift is not always bringing every idea to life kind of to fruition, but it's like just getting the ball rolling. But they can struggle if they like feel guilty for pivoting away when their gift was really getting things started. These are people that really thrive with freedom. They do well when they kind of feel free to do what they want, when they want, how they want, and no one's telling them what to do. They also have very spurty energy. What I mean by that is they might have periods, and you might identify with this actually,
I do.
periods where they feel so effective and on fire for a couple hours, days, weeks, and then kind of have to pull back and rest and be alone and kind of wait for the energy to surge back. These are people that are also just super autonomous, very independent, and are often the ones that are here to kind of make the first move.
Okay, a couple questions about that. Like, I feel like I know some manifesting generators that do that, like me being one of them. And I know a lot of them where it's like I go into a portal, I work really hard, I come out and I rest. Would it mean that the manifesting generator archetype has a little more manifester in them? Like, what does that really mean when it comes to the hybrid?
It's a great question. To me, it's just a reminder of the nuance of the chart,
Yeah.
because you are a manifesting generator. You have all this boundless, amazing energy. And one of your gifts beyond being a manifesting generator is like you're somebody who works well in like 3 hour sprints,
Yeah.
where it's like burst and then rest, burst and then rest. So like that's just another part of your chart. So I would just say for you, it's not about this kind of consistent 8 hour day. People with a chart like yours actually really struggle in jobs where they're kind of in an
Yeah.
office all day long because they get in, they get everything done, and then they're like, why am I still here? So
Yeah.
it's more around the fact that it's helpful to kind of drill down into deeper layers to give you the full picture.
Got it. And it's funny, I'm visiting a friend in Chicago this weekend named Brenna, and we've grown up together since we were like 7 or 6 years old, like school bus days. And I feel like she's probably a manifestor. I have to check her chart, but that
Have to.
girl, she always is wearing like three different prints ever since we were a kid. She's wearing like plaid, polka dots, and like metallic. And she always has like different color lipstick and like she different color hair. Like she'll dye her hair blue, then it's like a purple season. Like she very much feels like a free spirit. Would that be somebody that aligns with manifestor, or am I misunderstanding them as just like a super easygoing, like playful spirit?
When you think about businesses growing their sales beyond forecasts, you probably think about a product with very high demand, a very focused brand, and influence driven marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business making selling simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Shopify is home to the number one checkout on the planet, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout brands like Mattel and Heinz use. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/U-turn, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/U-turn to upgrade your selling today. Again, that's shopify.com/U-turn.
I think that there's so many parts of the chart that could
Yeah.
speak to that.
Yeah.
I do think you're right that like a free spirit just doing their own
Big,
thing, like that is
big.
100% a manifestor thing.
Yeah.
Um, I have my 6 month old as a manifestor, and like she's obviously 6 months old, and still I'm just like this girl is just like doing her own thing and is so
Yeah.
different than her sister, which is wild. But another thing that kind of comes to mind is sometimes in people's charts beyond their type, they're meant to have like very fluid identities where they just like are meant to kind of express themselves in so many different ways. And like I had a client who had this that would like go to her hairstylist and like literally get her hair done in like a totally different do like every couple weeks. So
Yeah.
it could also be that, what I mean? There could be so
Yeah,
many parts that speak
exactly.
to it. But I do think that like comment around the free spirit, that is very much at the heart of like an aligned manifestor feels free.
I actually love doing this, like looking at each of these archetypes and kind of like the overarching tone, right? So, like, manifestor overarching tone is a free spirit. Manifesting generator overarching tone is like fast execution in spurts and backing up. Generator, what would you say is the overarching energy based on what we talked about?
I feel like they're like inspired doers, like
Yeah.
really creative forces that are just so good at making things happen.
Cool. Okay. And then I know we have reflectors and projectors, which I actually have a lot. And this is another question is I have a lot of friends who are projectors. So I'm like, what does this mean about me? I have a lot of friends that are therapists, which I also wonder what that means about me.
And are they the same?
Yeah.
So projectors, it's funny. Like I know some of your friends and the friends that I know of
Yeah.
yours, I feel like are all projectors.
Yeah,
How
they
do
are.
you feel about that?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
How
hilarious.
funny.
Okay. So projectors are about 20% of the population.
Okay.
Projectors are, if we're going to think of actually, I'm going to ask you to think of the archetype after because I'm curious as an outsider what you would see. Projectors are very natural leaders, guides, teachers, seers. They are so good at making others feel seen and understood. So I imagine as a manifesting generator, it probably feels really good to have projector friends that make you feel seen and understood and ask you really good questions because that's so in the wheelhouse of projectors. They often end up in positions like CEO, coach, therapist, counselor, podcast host, roles where they're really in kind of seeing others and stewarding others. Their gift, their energy ebbs and flows. So they are not meant to do throughout the day, but it's like a burst and then rest, a burst and then rest. So they really often thrive with kind of moments of space and rest and pause built into their days. And one of their biggest lessons is that their gift is not in how hard they work or how much they can do, but really in their perspective and how they see.
Mm, I know a
Do you
lot of them. Yeah, I would say that. Like, just I feel like the projectors are like, they can deeply see you and they wait to be invited into things. So they don't just inject themselves. That's my take on them overarching. I don't know if I
Yeah,
know a lot of reflectors. Isn't that like 2% or something really small?
1%. Yeah.
1%. Okay, who are these people?
So, and also just to kind of comment on what you just shared about projectors, because it's such an important point. Projectors see a lot, and it's really tempting for them to share everything they see unsolicited, but
Mm,
often that can cultivate a lot of bitterness and resentment. So, one of the big lessons for us as projectors is that as much as we see, it's about waiting to be invited in until someone is actually ready to hear it. And so, it sounds like you're also around a lot of aligned projectors who are kind of waiting for the right moment and know that that's worth waiting for.
mm,
Then we've got reflectors, the rarest type. These are people that are so sensitive to their environment. They're always kind of taking in and magnifying the energy around them. So they are meant to be very ruthless curators of where they spend time and who they spend time with. They're
mm.
also very fluid. They will have days where they feel like every single type. They will find that different communities pull out different parts of them, different times of life pull out different purposes in them. And so their job is not to kind of try to be just one thing, but honor their vastness. And their energy also ebbs and flows, but it's more on a cyclical level on a monthly basis, where
Mm.
like throughout a month, they might have weeks where they're on fire, weeks where they have to rest. So it's really kind of allowing, ideally creating a schedule that kind of allows them to honor those seasons. Obviously, that's not always feasible. So
Yeah.
just kind of giving themselves grace where they can.
I love that. And I know that there's different authorities, like, and when you put your human design info in, you get one of those archetypes like manifesting generator, generator, etc., reflector. But then you also get a word to represent how you make decisions. And this was actually really interesting for me. And since you have my chart in front of you, like you could tell me better than I could tell myself because I can't recall the exact term. But I remember when I was, for lack of a better term, diagnosed by the calculator as this type of human, it was indicating that I actually need time to make decisions. And everybody has a different approach to decision making based on human design. And it was actually kind of a breakthrough for me because, like you said, I'm a manifesting generator. I move quickly, I initiate, I execute. I literally have never had a problem with taking action. Whenever I go to keynote speeches, like I just gave a speech this past week for Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. They have me going on some stages for them. And it's like every time I hear a keynote about just start and get ready, like get going, I'm like, I don't understand how anybody needs this. Like, yeah, of course you just start, like it's in my being. But I remember my decision making in the human design was around taking my time to make a decision. And that felt so counterintuitive to me because I was like, what? I'm so intuitive. I'm so in motion. How would I need time to make a decision? But as I've gotten older, I've realized that is so, so true. There have been so many men, so many, like an entire mantourage of them, where
Yeah.
I like, thought they were the guy, and I really needed a lot of time. And then I realized, nope, I don't want to spend my life with this person. Great guy, not my guy. So many times, like, I should move, I should live here. I take some time. Actually, it's not the right place for me. And so it's been such a learning curve for me to realize how much I need time to make decisions. And I think a lot of people don't realize what they actually need around that. So can you walk a little bit through sacral, emotional, splenic, like all these different ways and authorities that people might see in their chart?
Yes. And can I just go on a quick little tangent based on what you're
Yeah,
saying?
love it.
Okay. Because what you're talking about is like these are two separate parts of your chart, and I think they're both so interesting. So the first part is that you're an emotional authority. So
Yeah.
if you guys look your chart up and you see you're an emotional authority, you can be any type, but reflectors, I'm another type, and I'm also emotional authority. It's exactly what you said. You might have an initial instinct about something, you probably almost definitely will. And yet it's still important to give yourself a day or two or three to kind of see if that excitement or feeling sustains.
Yeah.
And I think it's really annoying. I like get an initial instinct and I'm like, I'm ready to go. And yet I've had enough experiences to wake up the next day and be like, I don't want to do that. Or my
Yeah.
energy is actually not there for it, that I learned that waiting really is the key to kind of helping me enter into the right decisions. Whereas I was just talking to somebody on a podcast earlier whose authority is self-projected. And he basically, his authority is all about kind of talking things out to find clarity. It's just like speaking things aloud to like everybody and seeing what truth comes out of his mouth. And like he's been doing that his whole life. So like
Mm.
for him, it's not about sleeping on it or trusting his gut. It's about kind of saying things out loud and seeing what comes true.
That's the same as emotional, or that's a different one?
So sorry, that's a different one. But
Which one
for
is that?
him, that's called self-projected.
I feel like I have some of that too. Like a lot of people, they don't get clarity unless they talk things through with some.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
interesting.
So and there's definitely an element of that in your design. You know, I think that like it's probably a good way to process over time.
Mm.
Um, but Okay, so let me just do a quick tangent on the Tony Robbins speech motivation situation you're talking about.
Yeah.
You have what we call a defined ego in human design. I know that's like technical language that you guys can ignore, but it basically means that you have an extraordinary sense of willpower. Like your motivation is just like next level. Tony Robbins also has this in his design. And
Yeah.
I find this so funny because these people are so motivating, they're so empowering, and yet they're often a little bit disappointed in like the comparatively low capacity of other people because they're
Yeah.
like, I don't get why they can't just get up and get going. I don't get why they can't like sustain that self-belief after they leave this workshop. But like, so it is just funny that you and Tony both share that because like I will say that like you've got an amazing sense of willpower. You're so right on with that. And 70% of the population does not have that. And so you lend that to people when they're in your energy, but it also falls away when they're outside your energy.
That's so true. That's so cool. And when you
Yeah.
talk about decision-making authorities, I know that we talked about emotional, which is mine, which needs time,
Yeah.
self-projected, which is that person that needs to talk things through.
Yeah.
You said I have a defined ego. I know ego is one of the ways that people make decisions. Is that what you mean by that, or is that something else in the chart you were looking at?
It is. So that is not your authority because your emotional
Yeah.
authority basically trumps that authority,
Mhm.
but it would be unsurprising if you resonate with that authority too because you have
Yeah.
the same characteristics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's just like we all have one authority, but we can have other little influences. And so one of your influences, I'll just skip to that one, the ego authority. These people are meant to make decisions based on what they desire. They're like, what do I want? Like, what must I have? Like, what do I have the willpower to make happen, the fortitude to make happen? And that's kind of meant to guide them. You often hear it in their voices. They're like, I have to do this. I must do this. Like, it's kind of this conviction or certainty that's just like totally undeniable.
Would that make the ego decision-making authority somebody who could be a little bit reckless in the sense, like, I think of a girlfriend of mine who I love, and she lives on the edge with her finances. I used to. I've gotten a lot better. But she's like, I just need this house in Cabo. I'm like, yeah, but then you need to up your entire revenue for the next 12 months. Like, are you prepared for that? She's like, I have no choice. I need to have this house. And then I see her like every month. She's like, I'm 50K away from being able to pay my house bill. I'm like, who lives like this? But it's like she does, she just, and she makes it happen like every time. And my friend's husband's like that. He's like, I want this thing. And then the pressure's on and they do it. Is that kind of person, or is that just a different type of stress and chaos that I'm missing here?
I mean, there could be obviously a lot of things playing into it, but that is definitely what it sounds like. Like, it doesn't always have to be reckless, but it is that, like, I must do it and nobody can convince me out of it. And it is that feeling that, like, I will move mountains to make it happen because as soon as I know that it will happen, it will happen.
Right.
Like, and I guess I hear that in your reflection of her story that, like, she says that and she's also not, like, wavering. You know what I mean? She's like, I know that this is going to happen. And so it's, like, maybe not as stressful for me because I have absolute certainty.
She does have moments where she's like, "Oh my God, it's chaos," and I'm
Yeah,
like, "Why are you living like this?" But you're making me think she has an ego authority where it's like, "Hey, I need to do this," and I just kind of
totally.
respect her process. I mean, we always have to respect everybody's process. Okay, so
Oh, yeah.
there's emotional, self-projected ego, and then there's sacral and splenic. Can you talk to us about those ones too?
Of course. So sacral authority is about trusting your gut feeling in the moment.
Mhm.
It's like a visceral feeling in your belly that basically pulls you toward or pushes you away from something. It's something that responds well to specific questions. And this is actually going to be true for you too, because you have a strong gut. It just, you're not meant to be fast in your decisions. So somebody like this, if they're seeking clarity on something, it's useful to ask them like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this or that? Is the timing right? If you ask them a very straightforward yes, no question, I would pay attention to kind of that visceral response before their mind has a chance to jump in.
Okay, that's really helpful.
Then we've got splenic authorities, which is similar in some way. It's all about kind of being very fast in your decision making, but also it's about your kind of quiet whisper of an intuition. It's not this visceral feeling in your belly. It's more like a voice that you hear, tingles that you feel, like this subtle resonance. And it's really quite hard to access when you're around others with a lot of strong feelings. So one of the tools that I recommend for these people is just like ample time and space alone because it helps them kind of reconnect to their own intuition.
Mm, okay.
Then we've got two more.
Yes.
We've got the mental or environmental authorities, and this is around kind of talking things out, but in lots of different spaces that feel good. And so, kind of seeing what thread of truth remains over time. And then the final authority is called none or wait a lunar cycle for reflectors. And they are meant to give themselves a full 28 to 30 days before they make a big decision, which to me feels like so hard to understand. And yet every reflector I talk to is like, yeah, totally. I get it. I must. And so, I know that was quick, but hopefully it gives you all a sense of how differently we all come to clarity and how
Yeah.
useful it is to not only understand our own process, like you and I sleeping on things, but also really learning how to respect the people around us. Because it's just like we often make a lot of collective decisions and things can feel really challenging when we expect others to process things just like us.
Mm. Okay, and I know that all of these archetypes have numbers associated with them. And I know we've talked about this before. Like I believe I'm a 3/5.
That's right.
Yeah, like what can, and then there's colors, which I think, and I'm really excited about this episode because we kind of did something like this at one point where we just bring people in so that they can go to the calculator, look at their human design, listen to this episode, and start to learn more about themselves, which is so awesome.
Yeah.
Um, like where do the like when you look at my chart, you're looking at my manifesting generator, you're looking at the fact that I'm an emotional decision maker, you're looking at the fact that I have a little bit of ego in my chart that helps me talk things out. There's colors in my chart, there's numbers. Like if you look at my chart now, what would you say is unique, or how could somebody find that uniqueness? I guess they would probably have to have somebody read it.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to give you like a little bit of context, one of our offerings is called the Blueprint Guide. I know that you've gotten one before. They're basically kind of these hyper-personalized manuals all about you. It dives into the most important pieces of your chart, but not all the pieces because that's impossible. There are 400,000 different versions of that guide.
Mm,
Like they are just like, so it's the combination of everything in your chart that makes you totally unique, you
mm,
know? So I would say when I look at your chart, I mean, there's so much. I think one of the things that kind of comes up is like, you've got like a lot of impact. Basically, like when you walk into a room, like your energy is felt. Some people walk into a room and like they're just taking in everything in their environment. And like there are things that you take in, of course, you're really like easily inspired and so good at like considering all the ideas. But like when you're excited by your work, it is so contagious. It is like so infectious. It really lifts up everybody. So I think a big lesson for you is like taking really good care of yourself because people will feel you wherever you are. They'll feel how you handle stress, how you're processing your emotions, how you feel about your work, your willpower, all of those things.
You would say that's like the unique thing that you see in the chart if you had to pick one?
I mean, everything is unique, but when I look at it, that's the combination. That's the kind of the fact when I look at your chart, basically, when you look at all those colors, you have seven of those nine centers colored and shaded in, which is a lot. I
Mm.
too have seven centers colored in, you
Okay,
know,
let's
but
explain that because people will look up their chart and they're going to see like colors or not colors. Like, can you just give them a general pulse on that? Because otherwise, it looks like a weird game of Tetris.
it's so confusing looking and it's
Yeah.
so hard to, I mean, it's impossible to analyze at first. So when you look at your chart, you'll see that there are nine different shapes, and those shapes will either be shaded in or white. If it's white, it basically means it's an area of your life where you're taking an energy from others, where you're super sensitive and just kind of like always changing. It's a place where things can feel challenging, but also you have so many amazing lessons to learn. So, to give you guys an example of your chart, one of the areas that is really amazing, but also challenging in your design is that you're very easily inspired.
Mm,
And so that means that you can probably talk about a bajillion different ideas and write all these I mean, just like you're so good at this because you can tap into it all. And you might sometimes feel scattered or like you're pulled in a thousand different directions, or you might feel a pressure to pursue every single idea that comes to you, which is just impossible.
yeah.
So for you, there's a real lesson in like, how can I embrace how easily and open, easily inspired I am while also not succumbing to the pressure to make every idea happen?
You know, it's kind of dark that I'm realizing as we're talking right now about this is I have a lot of big ideas, but I haven't pursued them yet because I love the financial stability that my smaller ideas provide me. And when I say smaller ideas, it's like more small service-based businesses because they're so accessible for me to start and they're so like they're somewhat stable. Like as somebody who has a lot of willpower, I can will myself into all the clients I want. And so I feel like there's part of that. And then the other part of it is that it's easy to close down. Like I can just slowly not take clients on and let it
Mm,
fall away for the part of me that has so many ideas. And so I actually think I've never pursued any of my big, big, big ideas because they feel almost burdensome on my energy. Like, well, if I create this huge AI platform about this, I need all these employees, I need investor money. And it feels like a jail cell a little bit. And sometimes I wonder if that really blocks my impact. I don't know if anybody resonates with that idea of like the big ideas require big execution, and just because I can doesn't mean I should. Or maybe I'm just missing it. I'm holding myself back. I don't know if I'm just rambling aimlessly, but when you were just sharing and you were like, you have a lot of big ideas. I'm like, yeah, and I haven't pursued them. And some people would look at me and be like, a creative agency that's helped craft hundreds of keynote speeches and TEDx talks and like
Yeah.
literally hundreds. And we've booked so many people on so many stages, like South by Southwest, TEDx, like whatever. But it doesn't feel big to me because we close out each client. Like if somebody comes in and they want our help crafting a TEDx speech or something like that, a keynote, they're in and out in 3 months. If they want us to book it, we go get it done for them and they just hear from us when it's done. So I'm not tied into other people's energy very much and it keeps me creative and light. But yeah, the idea of creating something big, is there something in human design for people that you see are meant to actually hold big energy like that? Because in some ways, based on how you're describing me, it looks like I should be, but maybe I just haven't grown into being that person. Maybe I'm not owning my design yet. But right now, big ideas feel like a burden to the part of me that likes to come in and come out. Like manifesting generators, they like to go in and they like to go out, right? And so to me, building anything that makes me go in and stay in, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to marry that idea. I've like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, yeah, I think what comes up, I mean, one, yeah, you're somebody who's just like a well of ideas, and not all the ideas are meant to be pursued.
Right.
I do think you're somebody who's meant to have like a big impact that extends far beyond your immediate community. This is actually beyond manifesting generator. This comes from your profile. You are somebody, like you said, that does best when you kind of come in, do your thing, solve the problems, offer the solutions, and walk back out.
Yeah.
You're somebody who's not meant to be on call and available all the time. This
No.
is also amplified by the fact that you're incredibly efficient and can do faster, can do more in a few hours than most can in a whole day. And so being in a position where you're kind of accountable all the time, like I think is probably not ideal for you. So I don't know whether I think there are probably ways to pursue the things you want to do while you maintain a sense of freedom. But I think that it would require structuring things in a way that feels probably different than what you've seen. But can I try one thing with you?
Yeah, t give me it. I'm ready.
Okay. So, like I said, you are somebody who's meant to sleep on things, but you're also somebody who has a very strong gut response. And so that means that when you are posed specific questions, you might find that you have like an immediate visceral response.
Mm.
So, like you were talking about kind of a bigger AI platform. Do you have something like specific in mind? You don't have to say it, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
actually, like, well, I mean, the specific thing that I'm thinking about, and do you know what's so funny? As you were saying out loud, you're not meant to be like on call for somebody.
Yeah.
A text literally came in of a contract that they want to get me on a retainer, but I know that if they put me on a retainer, they're gonna just text me, be like, "Hey, free for 5 minutes, free for 10," and it's like, "Fuck no, I'm not."
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I hate that because I want to be so likable and enjoyable and available for people that are paying me for anything, but I literally would rather die than be that person in my career.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's so funny you said that. But my AI idea is we've basically written so many hundreds of keynotes, and around half of the clients who we've helped with their TEDx talks, they've gone very, very viral. And
Mm-hmm.
we have a formula that I write my TED Talks through that I've taught my team. So I was thinking about uploading all of the TED Talks to AI and creating a conversational software and training the AI to craft a keynote for somebody. So somebody like you, Erin, could pay like let's say it's like 9.97 a year or $97 a month or whatever it is, and you can get as many speeches or presentations out of it. So it's not just keynotes, it's presentations. The reason I feel safe sharing this with you is because I deeply believe that we have the best writers in the world. Like one of my creative directors crafted talks for Steve Jobs' executive team at Apple for like a decade. So it's just next level. Like our speechwriters have written Grey's Anatomy, Succession, The New Girl, like all sorts of shows. Like one of them was #2 on Netflix all of December. So they're just like badass writers. And I've trained them in my method. So not only is the writing insane, but the method is mine. And so I was thinking about uploading all hundreds of speeches we've written, uploading the recording and transcript of the calls of us creative directing. So I don't know. I've got a lot of ideas, but I basically want to train my AI to help anybody craft a speech. And I feel really confident that any place could do it, but they can't do it like we can.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, first, I love the idea. I obviously would want to subscribe ASAP, but here's my question for you. So if you do your best to kind of get out of your head and just be in your body, like my first question is, does this feel like an idea you want to pursue?
Well, okay, this
Immediate response. I don't want to
I
reason.
want to pursue it, yes, but I have fear, and that's what I want to ask you about. Like, I'm like, I don't, it's unknown. And so this is the thing for this archetype and for anybody is how do you hear yourself when there's so many factors, right? So like, yeah, I feel a lot of energy about it because it feels easy to create the AI. But then
Yeah.
I think about, man, I've never created a sales funnel for a subscription. I don't know what to do. And there's a part of me that's like, oh, it sounds really like a lot. Like what if, ugh, and then I just don't know what to do with it.
Well, one thing I would say is that your gut feeling never comes with a reason. So if you find yourself saying like, I should not do this because the team will be too big to manage because I've never done this before, that's not your gut speaking. Your gut is like, it feels right or it doesn't. I'm going to figure the rest out later.
Mm,
And then like another question I would ask you is like, does the timing feel right to pursue it right now? And do
mm.
you have any kind of immediate response to that?
No, the time is not right now.
So like what I'm hearing, and obviously we are just speeding through this, but like it sounds like there's a lot of energy around the idea, but also like the timing's not there yet. And I think what I would encourage is like the fear is gonna be there
Yeah,
100%, like because yeah, you've built a thing that gives you the freedom you want, and you fear that you won't be able to maintain that in this new iteration of what you want to do.
yeah. I think it's the time to create it. It's not the time to, because I can get somebody to create it for me. I don't think it's the time for me to sell it. I'm too distracted and busy.
Yeah.
Um, this and how does this tool relate to me versus anybody listening? Because I think a lot of people, this is actually just good questions to ask. What are
Yeah.
some types that might look at this question differently, that they might feel an impulse like I have creatively?
Yeah. Well, I think that one, honestly, all generators and manifesting generators will often benefit from questions like this. Some of them are meant to trust their gut in the moment, some over time, like you. But I do find I sit so with them so often in sessions and they kind of talk around an idea for a while. And then I'm like, do you want to do it? They're like, no. So
Yeah.
like the clarity's there, they just weren't asked the right question. I think for splenic authorities, honestly, one of the best things you can do is just go spend time on your own. Quiet down, meditate, be in nature, go for a walk, dance, like see what arises when like you're not kind of influenced by other people's energy. If you are a self-projected authority, I would choose somebody you really trust who doesn't try to impose opinions on you and just serves as a good sounding board. And I would have them ask you questions like, will this decision make you happy? Will it move you in the right direction? Will it kind of allow your full creative self-expression? For those that are ego authorities, I would also choose to kind of talk things out and just see if that natural conviction we talked about like shows up in your voice of like, I want, I need, I must.
Mm.
Um, and and similar for kind of the mental authorities in the way to lunar cycle. I think having good sounding boards, having them ask you actually very open-ended questions and kind of talking openly about it and seeing what threads of truth remain through different conversations, because different people will kind of pull out different parts of you.
Mm. Okay, what have I not asked you about human design that you think people need to know, especially in the time we're in with AI? Like the
I know.
world is moving so quickly, and I feel like a lot of people, regardless of personality tests, it's almost like, not to say that human design is a personality test, but like it feels like a lot of people almost don't even know how to apply who they are in the world that we're living in right now because things are changing so much. I can't remember
Yeah,
what psychic it was, but they called right now the quickening.
I feel that
Yeah,
happening so fast. Yeah.
that's what this is. Um, yeah, what can you share with me just around like how all of these archetypes could be looked at just through the time we're in now, or just anything I haven't asked you?
Well, human design is pretty endless, but what I would say is that like it's kind of a wild time, obviously, that we're living in right now. I feel like human design is such an amazing anchor when there's like so much uncertainty and things are happening very fast and the landscape is changing quicker than like I think any of us know what to do with. Human design offers a real anchor of like, but how am I wired to thrive? And how am I meant to make decisions? And how do I need my needs met in my relationships? And what might my career look like, even if the jobs and the expressions might change with AI? So I just think it offers like the self-awareness to make sure we're moving through this time with like a lot more confidence and certainty and clarity.
Mm,
That's where I found it really useful.
mm.
Yeah.
And where can everybody get your book and just follow and learn from you more?
The book will post the link, but it's called How Do You Choose? And it's really around how you can actually apply your design to your career, your relationships, how to actually use it in your life in really practical, real world ways. If you want a hyper personalized guide to your design, we sell those at humandesignblueprint.com. I don't know what our discount code was. I think, should we just do a U-turn?
Yeah, let's do it. Why?
Yeah,
You win.
we'll do that. And then I'm on Instagram at Erin Claire Jones and Human Design Blueprint.
Thank you so much for being here and congrats on your book.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the U-Turn podcast. I hope you learned so much in this episode and you're putting it into action today. We would love to hear from you. Slide into my DMs at Ashley Stahl or leave a written review if you're inspired. It would mean so much to us. Be sure to subscribe to the show because, as you know, the more subscribers we get, the better the guests we can bring you. And in the meantime, if you're looking to skyrocket your personal brand and impact millions,
head on over to wisewhisperagency.com to learn more about how we can help you craft your greatest talk of your life, how we can help you get booked on some of the biggest stages in the world, even the TED or TEDx stage. We'd love to hear from you, and that's it for this week.
Trying to do tonight, swear you don't even try, and you still look stupid fine. Wish I can try and make you mine, but I don't think you like us. You're the puzzle that I'm trying to solve. Always think you know it, I've been thinking about you up against that wall. It's too late, I fell on every fall. Holding ground, no hearts. I'm holding ground, no. Trying to do tonight, I swear you don't even try, and you still look stupid fine. Wish I can try and make you mine, but I don't think you like guys. I don't think you like guys. I don't think I should try. I guess it's time to give up, but I don't wanna give up, give up, give up. No, 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 no. Scrolling through my phone today, I saw a photo of you. Really thought that I'd deleted all the photos of you. Forgot how it felt just to be normal with you. Forgot how I felt till I saw you with that late night drive. What you trying to do tonight? I swear you don't even try, and you still look stupid fine. Wish I can try and make you mine, but I don't think you like guys. Late night drive. What you trying to do tonight?